Good morning. Rival parties at the National Assembly come to a consensus on details of the probe into the Seoul ferry disaster. A 90-day investigation is set to begin next week. An undocumented Korean immigrant made headlines last year for heckling U.S. President Barack Obama. The 24-year-old is creating a movement for change. The only original Korean opera in the Korea Opera Festival in 2014, Im Yoon-hee has more on Soulmate, the closing act of the festival. And from girl groups to girls stepping on the stage with Just Me, Myself, and I. K-pop super beauties owning the stage alone on Korea Today, Friday, May 30th, 2014.
From Arirang News, this is Korea Today.
And thank you for joining us on this Friday morning. I'm Oh Jin-ju alongside Kim Min-jung and Kim Young.
Good morning, everyone. Let the voting begin. Preliminary voting for the June 4th local elections has begun this morning at some 3,500 polling stations across the country. They will be open for 12 hours starting at 6 a.m.
And this time, regardless of where you live, you can cast your ballots in any of the polling stations near you. This is because the early voting system doesn't require prior registration, which is unprecedented in Korean history. So all you need to bring is your ID card. Don't forget that.
And it's a 2-day early voting system. It goes until Saturday. And if you want to find a polling station nearest to you, then you can just visit the National Election Commission's website.
That's right. Exercise your voting rights today.
All right, rock the boat there. And we begin with Korea Today's top headline. Lawmakers in the National Assembly have passed a motion for a parliamentary investigation into the government's handling of last month's Seoul ferry disaster. The National Assembly passed the proposal at a plenary session late Thursday evening after the measure had been delayed for several days due to disagreements on who to add to the list of witnesses, including President Park Geun-hye's closest aide, the presidential chief of staff, Kim Ki-chun. As a compromise, the two sides agreed to add to the list the Office of Presidential Staff, with the chief of the organization required to report to the public hearings when called on, in effect subjecting Kim to questioning. Emotions have been running high over the government's poor response to the ferry accident, and the chief of staff has been targeted by the main opposition party. The 90-day investigation is scheduled to begin on June 2nd.
North Korea has agreed to launch a new investigation into the abduction of Japanese nationals after holding talks with Japan in Stockholm, Sweden, signaling a change in its stance on the issue. Pyongyang's official Korean Central News Agency said Thursday the state will conduct a comprehensive probe into all Japanese in the north, including more than a dozen people believed to have been kidnapped from their home country by North Korean agents decades ago.
We have engaged in sincere negotiations in hopes of settling our unfortunate past and current issues and moving towards the normalization of diplomatic ties.
North Korea has promised to conduct a comprehensive investigation into all Japanese in the country, including abductees and missing persons.
Once the special probe committee is set up, Japan in return will partially lift its sanctions placed on North Korea, including restrictions on travel, transfer of money, and port entry of North Korean ships. South Korea's foreign ministry issued a statement late Thursday evening saying while it understands Japan's position on a humanitarian basis, Seoul, Washington, and Tokyo need to coordinate in dealing with North Korea's nuclear ambitions.
And the Blu-ray generation may have absolutely no idea what VHS or beta even means. In a few years' time, buffering may become a thing of the past in Korea as the country's largest mobile service provider, SK Telecom, plans to commercialize 5G services. SK Telecom CEO Ha Sung-min said Thursday that the telecommunications giant will lead the next 30 years of Korea's mobile communications through ICT-nomics and economy-based innovative changes created by information and communications technology. The first step? The fifth generation or 5G network, which will provide users with a network speed 1,000 times faster than 4G LTE. SK Telecom set itself the goal of becoming the world's first mobile carrier to use 5G by 2020.
personal journey for an undocumented immigrant of Korean descent living in the United States. Chu Hong was recently granted advanced parole by the U.S. government, allowing him to visit Korea and return to the U.S. without facing repercussions. Hong wasn't able to travel to Korea for more than a decade out of fear that he could be deported and separated with his family at any given time. He says the thought always haunts him, but it hasn't stopped him from speaking out. Our producer Lee Ji-yeon has more.
Setting foot back in Korea for the first time in 13 years, 24-year-old Chu Hong is an undocumented immigrant in the U.S. It's his first trip out of the country since his family arrived in 2001, and it's to meet his 90-year-old grandmother who is ill with Alzheimer's disease. After Hong's family fell into a financial pit during the Asian financial crisis in the 90s, his mother took him and his sister over to the States in search of a better life. One failed attempt at changing their immigration status, and the three-member family became undocumented. But a turning point last year when Hong openly spoke out against U.S. President Barack Obama during his speech on immigration reform, a move that put him in the spotlight.
I need your help. Okay. Thank you. All right.
And it was after this that Hong won temporary approval to visit Korea with a guarantee of re-entry. But on a personal level, it was years before that Hong chose to initiate change in his life through a video message on YouTube.
I'm an undocumented immigrant.
A scary, difficult experience, but considered life-changing.
Because I come out, I was able to finish college with the public support. You know, I got a lot of public support in terms of financially, mentally, emotionally. And so I'm very blessed and privileged the fact that I'm in this position, despite the fact that I'm undocumented.
And Hong, who now pursues a graduate degree in public administration, says he's determined to help more people like himself, one of the reasons why he wants to share his story through a documentary. He says it's just part of a broader movement to address the roughly 230,000 undocumented Korean immigrants who make up for 1/7 of the entire Korean American population. A battle that is not entirely welcome within the Korean American community.
The number one issue actually could be sort of a little bit of resistance from the people who are documented. So for them, it's sort of like, it seems you're like cutting the line when we say that we need to advocate for, or we need to really have some type of a mechanism for the undocumented to adjust.
Experts say Asian American communities are commonly referred to as the so-called model minorities, ironically making it more difficult for those who need legal help to speak out. But gradually, more younger immigrants like Hong are coming out of the shadows to share their experiences.
Now that I'm here, I feel like I'm home in a different sense. And one word that I could describe in South Korea is family.
A family that he has to leave behind for now as he continues to find his way into another community that he calls home. Lee Ji-yeon for Korea Today.
Happy Friday morning. Let's run through the front pages of your newspapers now. All different kinds of stories making headlines this morning in the local papers. Let's go straight into the first one on 중앙일보 regarding the latest agreement between North Korea and Japan. The headline reads, North Korea, Japan hope to realize normalization of diplomatic ties by moving beyond the past. Now, North Korea agreed to carry out a full-scale investigation into the abduction of Japanese nationals, as you heard earlier in the headlines, and Tokyo said it will lift partial sanctions and provide humanitarian aid to the reclusive country at an appropriate time. The neighboring countries were discussing the pending issues to normalize diplomatic relations at senior-level talks in Sweden. And now going to some domestic news on 동아일보. Take a look at this headline. The headline says 5 days left until the local elections, and here the Daily gives details on early voting for the June 4th local election. Voters can cast preliminary votes today and tomorrow, anytime between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. You can cast your vote at any of the 3,506 polling stations across the country. And as Jinju mentioned, please do remember to take your ID cards with you. And we'll take a look at another story beneath the image there regarding the search, ongoing search of Yoo Byung-un. This is giving a rather critical viewpoint on the hunt for Yoo, the de facto owner of the sunken Seoul ferry. The headline says Yoo Byung-un, way ahead of the prosecution, switches vehicles to get away from Suncheon Villa. And before the joint prosecution search team was able to make a raid on the villa in Suncheon, where Yoo was reportedly hiding out in, Yoo successfully escaped by switching cars. And in any case, the paper says he is now far away from the Suncheon area already, and the search for Yoo will likely be extended. And moving to Joseon-ilbo, we'll take a look at a story at the bottom of the front page. And the U.S. appears to be pushing Korea to join its missile defense or MD system, which aims to counter a rising China in the region. The headline reads, U.S. plans to deploy additional MD system in the Asia-Pacific region, pushing Korea to join. However, as the sub-headline notes here, such a move comes without consultation with Korea. The Korean Defense Ministry stressed that it is impossible for the South's indigenous system to be incorporated into the U.S. one, and Korea maintains its long-held position of not joining the U.S.-led missile shield. And quickly taking a look at a front-page image on the Korea Economic Daily. Towards the bottom there, Hyundai Motor, Korea's largest automaker, took the wraps off its new front-wheel drive flagship sedan, as you see in the picture, referred to by its development code name of AG at the 2014 Busan International Motor Show that just kicked off yesterday. And finally, we'll go ahead and look at a story on the economy onto the side of the Mail Business newspaper. The headline says Korea's IPO market to top $1.9 billion US this year. The IPO, or the initial public offering market, is becoming more and more vibrant here in the country, with, for instance, Samsung SDS having made an astounding announcement towards the beginning of the month that it would go public. And as you heard this week, popular messenger service KakaoTalk has also decided to go public via Daum Communications. Now, these moves are drawing more attention from investors to the IPO market. And that was a look at your newspaper headlines for this Friday. And coming up are the stock numbers from Thursday.
And the warm temperatures has become pretty much the norm for this week. Temperatures rising into the high 20s and even breaking into the 30s.
That's right. We'll take a closer look at the weather conditions for today and also the weekend with our Chun Sung-cho, who joins us from the Seokcheon Lake. Good morning to you, Sung-cho. Enjoying our stroll.
Good morning, guys. I'm reporting live from the Seokcheon Lake, just enjoying this beautiful, breezy, cool weather outside. It was so hot yesterday, though, that just standing still outside in the sun for a while in the afternoon could make you sweat. The mercury level surpassed the 30-degree mark here in Seoul for the first time this year, and in many other cities around the country as well. Daegu recorded 35.6 degrees Celsius, the hottest temperature in 52 years for the month of May. Today, midday highs will go up even more. This is due to the high-pressure system sitting on top of Jeju's southern sea. It's giving off clear, cloudless skies nationwide, really intensifying the heat as the sun directly warms up the ground. Plus, it's injecting warm air into our atmosphere, so this sweltering heat is expected to stay with us for a while, and this weekend is going to be a hot one. And with that, if you're still worried about the yellow dust that's been shrouding the entire peninsula for the past several days, you see a big improvement in the visibility if you look out far. It has subsided overnight, but the air conditions are still affected by a little bit of particulate matter in the atmosphere. So those of you with respiratory problems should take extra care. Now let's move on over to a closer look at today's forecast. You see many cities hitting the 30s, like Seoul's highs are 32 and Daegu the hottest at 34 degrees Celsius. Busan will be the coolest at 27. A dry weather warning has been issued in Gangwon-do province, so take preventive measures not to spark up any wildfires. This is all for me with the weather update. Back to Min-jung in the studio.
Fugitive whistleblower Edward Snowden gave his side of the story in his first TV interview with a U.S. network. We'll get the details with our Eunice Kim, who joins us from the News Center. Good morning to you, Eunice.
Good morning, Min-jung.
Now, a lot of eyes on this interview, huh?
Indeed, it was a 5-hour conversation with NBC nightly news anchor Brian Williams, edited down to an hour-long special that aired Wednesday night U.S. time. NBC says the interview at the Moscow hotel room was arranged in great secrecy and that no topics were off limits. In it, the fugitive former NSA contractor Edward Snowden, who is, of course, charged with multiple felonies related to espionage, said he has no relationship with the Russian government, though he had been in hiding in Russia for nearly a year. He also said he never intended to escape to Russia, destroyed classified materials before transiting to Moscow, and gave no intelligence documents to nor received any money from the Kremlin. The 30-year-old expressed his desire to return to the United States, but said he would request an extension on his asylum in Russia. And it was a deadly day in eastern Ukraine where at least 14 people were killed when a military helicopter was shot down by pro-Russian separatists. It was carrying Ukrainian soldiers and a general for a troop rotation. Acting President Alexander Turchinov said it was shot down by a Russian rocket-propelled grenade launcher shot up by, quote, terrorists. Meanwhile, a spokesman for the self-declared Donetsk People's Republic told CNN that Russian citizens were among the militants dead in the airport assault earlier this week. He said at least 33 were from the Russian Federation and their bodies will be taken back to the Russian city of Rostov-on-Don soon.
And Eunice, our last story is really a story that has shocked the world. In Pakistan, a pregnant woman was stoned to death for refusing an arranged marriage, and the Pakistani leader is speaking out for the first time.
That's right. Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif called the killing totally unacceptable and ordered the chief minister of Punjab province to submit a report immediately. Farzana Parveen was the 3-month pregnant lady when she was pelted with bricks by her own family members in a so-called honor killing in front of a court in Lahore for reportedly refusing to marry her cousin and tying the knot with another man. She and her chosen husband were at the court to contest a kidnapping case filed by her family against her new husband. The man said when they arrived, Parveen's relatives were there waiting for her. But this is no isolated incident. According to the Human Rights Commission of Pakistan, there were more than 800 reported cases of such honor killings in the country last year. And that wraps your look at the global headlines we're following this morning.
And later on Korea Today on K Entertainment, we'll take a closer look at female solo artists who have swept the K-pop stage with a vast array of looks and performance styles. What's turning people's heads? Denny Hong breaks it down for us.
Opera is a genre dominated by European classics, but one Korean original opera actually made quite a splash when it debuted in Germany 8 years ago, and now it's been chosen to close the Korea Opera Festival here in Korea, the fifth one. And Lee Myun-hee joins us with more on this opera. Good morning.
Good morning, Young. So it seems like this month of May just flew by, right?
Yes, it did.
Anyway, so the month of May, speaking of which, also hosted this opera festival, the fifth festival. So this festival was held at the Seoul Art Center, and this particular performance was performed by the Korean National Opera. Now, so far, the festival has seen some very recognized foreign productions of foreign opera, such as Puccini's Madame Butterfly and Salome. But for the closing of this festival, they have chosen an original Korean opera. So now let's take a look. After almost a month of performances, the Korea National Opera wraps up this year's opera festival with an original Korean opera. Soulmate is a comic opera that brings centuries of Korean traditions to the stage while adapting to suit the modern audience.
We use traditional Korean ballads as well as traditional music to make fun scenes that share the stories of the characters. There's a mix of tension and relaxation that can be heard in our voices when we sing like this. In 2006, Soulmate made a debut at the Frankfurt Opera House in Germany and was praised for its integrity in portraying Korean traditions while learning to utilize the techniques of European operas. And 8 years down the line, the performance is once again being staged.
The opera is performed in Korean, and the musicality of the piece successfully weaves together a story of one couple's traditional Korean wedding ceremony and the many customs and traditions that go along with it, all while creating opportunities for a couple laughs in the process.
Contrary to the previous versions, this time the tragic scenes of the opera was reduced. And we expanded on events like the wedding ceremony and having a baby in order to create more chances for comedic scenes.
It's an opera of a much lighter nature that people from all backgrounds can relate to. An opera that brings lyrical voices to the stage. Voices that sing the story of weddings and of families, and in the end, of happily ever afters.
And also an opera that sheds light on how a traditional Korean marriage used to work here. And this is a comedy, so that word was mentioned several times. Most of the times operas are a little bit on the tragic side, right? This sets it apart.
Right, it does seem like operas really like to go for that dramatic flair, very sad ending. But so far this festival, for the other operas, they have seen, like Madame Butterfly has seen a terrible suicide at the end. Samson and Delilah is known for its tragic betrayal. But this particular opera, the writer decided that she wanted to really hone in and focus on this idea of people really finding their soulmates amongst the relationships in their lives.
And that lightness factor and the comedy factor could be it could work well for many people who are new to operas, and this could kind of segue them into the world of operas. But I understand that this performance is also being called the healing performance.
Right, so the director actually mentioned, he said that they've prepared this opera for quite a while, but the accident, the Seoul ferry accident, didn't happen, along with a few other accidents. And he did feel like this opera now can stand as a sort of healing opportunity for the people. Many people did notice that the arts and cultures events around the country did kind of drop off after the accident. But, you know, these kinds of events are slowly starting to pick up, and this particular opera, I think, would be timed perfectly and is a good chance for people to get out there this weekend and really get around about and see people and really learn to appreciate those in their lives.
All right, well, thank you very much for that report.
My pleasure.
Have a great weekend.
You too.
And still ahead on Korea Today, Seodaemun-gu District is a district that's a little bit underrated, but we're going to shed light on that place. Chef Matthew Chung, he's going to take us on a relaxing, beautiful park walk, as well as some other hidden spots before checking out some of the local dishes, or shall we say fusions, some new creations that we're going to introduce you to.
A friendlies football match between South Korea and Tunisia earlier this week disappointed many of the fans, but there was something else that actually impressed them.
Korean footballer turned commentator Ahn Jung-hwan's commentary made the game a bit more interesting. For more on this and other keywords, we'll turn to the digital room where our Seodaemun-gu is standing by for us. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Min-jung, and good morning, Jinju. I'll show you some of his sharp observations later on, but first, let's see what else grabbed people's attention online the past 24 hours. Preliminary voting begins today for the June 4th local elections. More on this later. Ahn Jung-hwan, as we mentioned earlier, yesterday was D-Day 6 until the June 4th local elections, and as per the Public Official Elections Act, results on further opinion polls cannot be released until end of the main voting day. The French court rejected Yoo Seom-na's application for release on bail, but Yoo Seom-na, the first daughter of Lee Byung-on, has hired a leading French lawyer and is expected to put up a fight. Meanwhile, unseasonably high temperatures continue nationwide, with yesterday's temperatures in Seoul and Daegu peaking at 31 and 36 degrees respectively. Now let's go back to voting. Starting today, people can cast their preliminary votes for the upcoming June 4th local elections. Voting will be held over 2 days at stations nationwide. Let's take a look. The preliminary voting system was implemented for people such as non-regular workers who might find it hard to vote on the day. Preliminary voting has been held previously for by-elections, but this is the first time it's been available for a nationwide election. Now, regardless of your individual circumstance on June 4th, you can still exercise your right to vote by visiting any one of the 3,500 preliminary voting stations. You don't need to give advance notice, and you can visit any station regardless of your residential address. All you simply need is a form of identification. And for those going away on international business trips or vacation, there's even a voting station prepared at the Incheon airport. Meanwhile, at the Central Election Management Committee's website, you can check the voter turnout per hour and per city and province between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. Now switching gears to Ahn Jung-hwan, the former national soccer team player who holds a near celebrity status here in Korea, provided commentary for Korea's World Cup warm-up match against Tunisia on Wednesday. Now his sharp commentary was all the rage among viewers online. Let's see why. In the match held at the Sangam World Cup Stadium, Tunisia's midfielder Dawari scored in the 44th minute and won the game 1-0. It was a disappointing match for the Korean fans, with the Korean team missing several scoring opportunities and making some critical mistakes in the defense. But scratching the itch for the fans was Ahn Jung-hwan's on-the-money commentary. Sharp remarks such as player Ki Sung-yong is faster at passing than dribbling, there's no coach at the field, and there needs to be an offense where the eyes of the defense doesn't reach, reflected precisely what many viewers were thinking themselves. Ahn Jung-hwan also explained that world-class football is all about making that quick attack towards the goal and seizing the opportunity. Many online users praised Ahn Jung-hwan's commentary after the game, saying that his sharp commentating skills were on par with his superb playing skills. And we look forward to more of his sharp commentary in the upcoming World Cup as well. And that's a wrap up for me. This has been Seo Mi-sorang with your news sum up. Now back to you guys in the studio.
Well, Ahn Jung-hwan might be known as the broadcaster now, but for many, he's still a World Cup legend. And speaking of which, let's kick things off with the South Korean national football team. Now, not only did they lose to Tunisia in the final home tune-up match on Wednesday, 22-year-old Kim Jin-soo will not be headed over to Brazil due to his injury. Now, the South Korean defender, who's ailing from an ankle injury, will not be able to heal in time for the World Cup, according to the team doctor, and will be taken off the World Cup roster. Instead, added onto the roster is Park Ju-ho of Mainz, who many consider to be the biggest snub in the 23-man roster. Although Park is also recovering from an injury, the KFA believe that he will heal faster than Kim and will be available for the World Cup. And moving over to the LPGA, where the ShopRite LPGA Classic begin their 4-day event. But for world number 1 Park In-bi, she must do well this week in order to hold on to her number 1 title. Now, Park In-bi, who sits at the top of the LPGA ranking for the 59th straight week, missed her cut last weekend during the Airbus LPGA Classic and must finish higher than Stacey Lewis this week. Meanwhile, Stacey Lewis, who won the North Texas LPGA Shootout earlier this season, only trails Park In-bi by 0.22 points as she hopes to capitalize on the recent struggles of Park In-bi. And now moving over to some Thursday night's KBO action, the NC Dinos crushed the Hanwha Eagles for the 3rd straight night, 15-7, with the Tucson Bears holding on to beat the Kia Tigers 15-10 and the Samsung Lions take the series with a 4-2 win over the LG Twins. Meanwhile, let's take a look at the SK Wyverns take on the Nexon Heroes. Of course, going into the game here, we go over to the first inning. Lee Jae-won with an RBI ground out to second gives the SK Wyverns the 1-0 lead before Kim Gang-min makes it 2-0 with an RBI single to left center. Still in the top of the first inning, bases loaded for Park Jae-hyun, and he singles to left center. This scores 2 and it's now 4-0. We go over to the second inning of the game. Seogun Chung here, RBI single to center, and it's now 4-1. Before Lee Tae-gun, the next batter, makes it 4-2 with a sac fly to right. SK continues to cruise through a 5-3 in the bottom of the ninth, top of the ninth, with the bases loaded. Park Jung-hwan, a grand slam, and it's now 9-3. Of course, Kang Jong-ho would add a solo shot in the bottom of the ninth inning, but no matter as the SK Wyverns beat the Nexon Heroes 9-4, your final score. And now finishing things off, Pyeongchang will be hosting the next Winter Games in 2018, and organizers are doing all they can to prepare for the event. But how about the 2022 Winter Games? Well, the bidding for the rights to the 2022 Winter Olympics is now down to 4 cities as Almaty, Beijing, Lviv, and Oslo will look to host the Winter Games after Pyeongchang. The Polish city of Krakow, which was also in the hunt for the bidding rights, pulled out after nearly 70% of the citizens were against the idea of hosting the Winter Games. And that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great weekend, everyone, and see you guys again for your sports needs.
And it's time now to catch up with this week's entertainment news. And as always, we have our Denny Hong with us here in the studio.
Good morning, Denny.
Good morning. This past week we had some interesting news coming out. We had some movie rumors, some new albums, some singles, and even some baseball stuff. So we're going to be talking about that. Let's take a look at some of the entertainment news from this past week.
Yay.
This week on Wednesday at a LA Dodgers and Cincinnati Reds game, CN Blues Ahn Jung-hwan sung the Korean anthem before the game with Korea's national flag, the Taegukgi, as the backdrop on large screens. He also released a Ryu Hyun-jin song for the Korean pitcher called You Can Do It. Speculation runs high, with many saying actor Lee Byung-hun will be taking on the role of the cyborg T-1000 in the upcoming Terminator 5. According to a call sheet leaked online, written in front of Lee's name were the words police and T-1000, leading many to believe the actor might be playing one of the most popular characters in the Terminator film franchise.
That should be interesting.
Taeyang from the boy band Big Bang has unveiled a teaser video for his second solo album, which was shot in Los Angeles. The clip highlights the singer's wild and charismatic charm, and the album is scheduled to be released online June 2nd and offline on the 10th. The group Beast has revealed its new logo on its Facebook page and confirmed the boy band's comeback date as the 16th. All members of Beast are said to have taken part in conceptualizing the album, producing, and also the choreography. So fans have high expectations for the new release. The US Billboard put girl group 2NE1's music video for Gotta Be You in the spotlight, calling it pop art, amid references to Andy Warhol and Roy Lichtenstein. In a review of the new music video, it also highlighted the harmony among members with significantly different character traits, adding they're one of K-pop's leading girl groups.
And 2NE1 sure is. I really am a big fan of that group. But speaking of girl groups, there are many female artists from girl groups that are going solo these days.
That's right. So, of course, currently we also have male groups there too. EXO, G.O.D, and Flight of the Sky are back as well on the performance stage. But yeah, it is becoming more common to see solo performances coming from girl groups that are, of course, breaking away temporarily to release these albums. And so we're going to take a look at these trend right now, as well as who is who in this solo trend at the moment. In the month of May, sweeping the K-pop stage has been solo female singers with their sexy, provocative songs. Opening the floodgates to this trend is Secret's Chung Hyo-sung, who put out her second mini album, Goodnight Kiss, on May 12th.
섹시함은 여자만이 가질 수 있는 것이고 여자에게서 여자가 당당할 때 나오는 그런 여자만의 좀 권리라고 생각을 하거든요.
Men can be sexy.
Exactly, I was gonna say.
Chung Hyo-sung shed her cute and bright image, instead taking on a more mature and sexy one. She has stormed the stage with her risque outfits and unconventional performance. Up against Secret Chung Hyo-sung is Tiara's Jiyeon, who has released her debut solo album for 1 minute, 1 second.
Wow.
That is some provocative moves.
She must have a
여러분 안녕하세요, 지연입니다. 반갑습니다. 타이틀곡은 1분 1초라는 곡이고요. 굉장히 좀 몽환적이면서 섹시한 느낌의 처음부터 빗소리를 포인트로 준 곡이고요. 일단 가사는 되게 서정적이면서 남자를 그리워하는 여자의 애절한 마음을 담은 곡입니다.
One of the most popular features of this album is her key hip sway choreography. After the music video was released, it has grabbed first place on local charts as well as in Wieta, China's largest music video sharing site.
티아라가 하던 그 무대를 이제 혼자 채워야 한다는 그 한 곡을 혼자 소화해내야 된다는 그 부담감이 굉장히 컸었는데 주위 분들이 많이 응원해 주셔서 조금씩 자신감을 찾고서 지금 조금 즐기면서 하고 있습니다.
With her successful debut as a solo singer, Jiyeon is receiving much attention as a sexy icon, adding to an already heated race among female singers. Another trend among female artists that is currently in vogue is the sweet and innocent image, with singers going after clean and pure looks. Leading this category of performers is IU, who has come back with her cover album, A Flower Bookmark.
And she definitely has the musicality worked out too.
Indeed. IU reintroduced some of the hit songs from the 80s with a strong emotional interpretation unique to herself and has single-handedly dominated the music charts, putting behind her names like EXO and G.O.D.
And the song is so good.
It is. It's a very sweet song. The original is great, but IU did a real just remake of it.
기존의 선배님들의 감성을 그대로 가져온 곡도 있고 또 제 나름대로 새롭게 해석해서 재탄생시킨 곡들도 있고요. 다채로운 앨범이니까 여러분도 좋아하실 거라고 생각합니다.
Also coming back to the K-pop scene after a year is Gina with her mini album Pretty Lingerie. And she is tugging at the heartstrings of her male fans with her cute, lively image. She has set aside the sexy look she previously sought out and has added more femininity, but with more adorable choreography and a light tune.
They show off the many different sides that they have, and it helps people enjoy a more varied music scene. So I think they're helping give the sluggish music industry an extra boost.
Female artists have been shaking up the K-pop scene with their different music styles and performances, opening more doors to change and versatility.
So it's Chung Hyo-sung's second mini album and Jiyeon's first solo album.
That's right.
They're doing exceptionally well. And why are we seeing more female singers breaking away from the group and going solo?
They don't want to split the money.
They certainly are.
No, I'm going to give it a more, broader
They want all
appeal
the money.
here. Now, we can all agree that the competition among groups in Korea is very strong. And when you have groups that are going on hiatus for a temporary moment, you have to make sure that somebody at least stays in the spotlight. So when they have their comeback, that it's not like they've been gone for so long. So you have to have a little bit of that media presence. And when it comes to solo groups or solo performances, they have to think about what their image is going to be. Either it's going to be the same as their group, but usually it swings the other way. So if you have, like in Secret's case, you have more of a bubblier, cuter image, then you kind of swing the other way and go for the sexy solo image itself, just to kind of differentiate yourself from the group. And I think that's kind of also a bit of an issue. Some people have been saying that it's either sexy, it's either cute. Where's the middle ground? And so I think people are going to be focusing on that probably in the future as well.
And next month, which is like 2 days away, they will release new albums, these solo female artists.
That's right. So we already have, of course, Jiyeon. We were just talking about her. But her group mates, Hyomin is also going to be coming out with her first solo album pretty soon, as well as AOA is in plans for their next album, as well as Girls' Day. So there's going to be a lot more competition in the female group and solo side next month. But they're also going to be butting heads with the male groups that are also coming back pretty soon as well.
All right. Well, that sounds like fun. Just in time for the summer. A slew of female idols out there these days. All right. Sounds great, Denny. Thank you very much.
No problem.
And it's that time where we get our appetites rolling. None of us have had breakfast yet, so we get really hungry around this time. Matthew Chung joins us to show us some of the spots in Seodaemun-gu today. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you guys?
Good.
So we've got, like you said, Seodaemun-gu District. And a lot of people, they think of it just as a university district, someplace that's kind of busy and bustling, full of youth. But in fact, there are a lot of really cool, kind of like calm, peaceful places where it's perfect for kicking back and relaxing. So this time of the year can be stressful for some, so why don't we check out some places that can just help you relax and heal.
So this is the Seoul Art Space. It's here in Yeonnidong, and it's right in the middle of the city. But it's this kind of oasis of tranquility and calm. And it's because it's a space that's meant for artists and writers to work and to get inspiration.
Writers who have officially entered the literary circle can sign up and stay here and write from anywhere between 3 to 6 months.
This is the Munak Media Lab, which is the literature media lab. They have over 10,000 different volumes here. So on any given day, this place, you can find it just scattered with students here, to study or just to pick up a good book to read.
So this tiny little spot, this is Pijindo Haemul Tukbegi. There's no sign out front. You wouldn't be able to find it unless if you knew exactly where it is. This hot pot right here, it smells incredible. And there's so much in here. There's mussels, abalone, clams, chukumi, which are webfoot octopus. They're these little guys. It's still steaming hot. Really incredible is this broth. I probably should be talking, but I've just been busy drinking the soup. There's all the seafood in here for one, but they start with a stock that's made from hwangtae, which is a dried pollock. And the seasoning base it's aged. But what they'll do is they'll take their seasoning base and age it for a couple of days in order to develop a little more flavor. It's pretty simple looking. It's just kind of a clear, like a milky white. So I kind of expected it to only taste of, the sea of kind of brininess, which it does. But there's a depth to it. I can't really place my finger on it. There's a spiciness, there's a heat there as well. Oh, it's crazy good. All right, time for a little rice. Ooh. So the purple one, it's made by adding hungmi, black rice, to it. And then the green, that's soup, which is mugwort. And then you have gardenia seeds, which color the yellow. Not only do you get that great color from all this, it adds a little bit of flavor, but it also it's just really well-cooked rice as well.
So hidden in the middle of the city is the Ansan Urban Nature Park. And I don't know about you, but if I need to decompress, I have to go outside. And it's places like this that draw me in and really help the healing process.
Ansan Urban Nature Park sits in the middle of Seodaemun-gu, and it's easily accessible from anywhere because it's a hilly park. There's the Yoni rest spot, which is famous for its cherry blossoms, and the circulating mountain footpath is well known. This path doesn't have any stairs and the slope isn't that steep, so it's easy to walk around.
There's an interesting little touch in this park. Look at these rocks. They're not actually rocks, they're in fact speakers, and all throughout the day, they play classic pop songs. So right next to the park, there's the Seodaemun Museum of Natural History. So you can experience nature firsthand. And then here you can learn all about it. So the scale of what they cover here at the Natural History Museum, it's pretty impressive. They cover everything. They have exhibits on dinosaurs, on all the mammals, the ocean life. They put a lot of effort into teaching people about natural history in an engaging way. And museums aren't just for rainy days anymore. They've built out things outdoors as well, so you can see these kids playing and they're having a ton of fun.
So we're here at Uncle's, and it's loud here. Here in Korea, when you want to sort of relieve your stress, the easiest way to do that is with spicy food. So first there's this one. It's the blooming squid flower. And while the name might sound a little odd, once you look at the dish, you understand why, because here they've taken the legs, they've taken the tentacles, and they fried it in a way where all the legs are spread out, kind of like a blooming flower. No, this is definitely the right dish, to have at the end of a long week. It's cooked in a special way as well. Most of the time, it's just kind of given a couple of tosses in the pan. Here, it's cooked over high heat, so it really brings out the flavor of the tteok. So this is a combination you don't see that often. Two really popular Korean foods, tteokbokki and samgyeopsal, pork belly, and they're combined here on one dish. Let's see how it works out. This is the first time I've seen this. That's not perfect, Dave. I don't know what is.
Oh, so cheesy.
Ooh, and we have two kinds of tteokbokki joining us this morning in the studio. Wow. Okay, so shall we dig in?
Sure.
Wow.
So this one here is a samgyeopsal one.
Wow. I've never seen a samgyeopsal and tteokbokki
Right?
combination.
It's an odd combination, but somehow it looks good. And let us dig in. Hey guys, what you guys waiting for?
Yeah, but I mean, like you said, you don't really see these two things together. But I mean, at this point, we have to ask ourselves the question: why not? I mean,
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's kind
and
of
a lot of the successful businesses just make money by asking that question. Why not?
Exactly. I mean, it's kind of like that famous peanut butter cup tagline: "Two great tastes that taste great together."
Oh, I lost that.
All right, let's try it.
So not only it's great because it has two of those local childhood favorites. One of the best things about it is the price. These right here, the tteokbokki, they cost 6,000 won, about $6 a piece. The seafood hot pot that we have in front of us is 10,000 won, about $10 a piece. So not only is this, is Seodaemun-gu great as a place for healing, to sort of relieve your stress, it also takes the stress off your wallet as well.
It's really good. It's rather spicy. It's pretty spicy,
and
right?
Tteokbokki is supposed to be cheap, on the cheap side, and it is affordable. It's 6,000 won. So,
Yeah, and
Not bad.
and here in Korea that we eat that spicy food for that stress relief.
Well, sounds good. We're going to enjoy some spicy food, get us spiced up for a Friday night. Matthew, thank you for joining us today.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you.
And that brings us to the end of Korea Today on this Friday morning.
Do join us again on Monday and have a great weekend.
Thanks for watching.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.